Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. I have to be kind of quiet here today because I have college kids sleeping down here in the basement all weekend, so a little quieter. A few weeks ago, a month or so ago, I did the Attic Find Friday about Auction Monthly, where he had over 600 century-old, obviously pre-war cards brought to him. There were not very many details, and I had spoken with him, and he hadn't gotten back to me at that point yet. But he has now. And so I didn't do an Attic Find Friday this week. I spent all day yesterday with my family. Didn't do an Attic Find Friday, but this is a follow-up to an Attic Find Friday that was pretty recent. This was the one that it was featured in Sports Collectors Daily, and now it's also featured in Penn Live, and at least a half a dozen people sent me the Penn Live article, not recognizing it as the same one I did a month ago. Why is Penn Live doing this article a month later? I don't know, but that's fine. So this one was the tin box with a lot of strip cards. It had like, I don't know, 20-ish Babe Ruth cards. 20-ish Babe Ruth cards, 12 that were different from each other. A lot of strip cards, Z-Nuts. And I had said that Auction Monthly bought the cards and then we're trying to sell them. And Auction Monthly answered a bunch of my questions, and I'm going to go through those answers. And they actually didn't buy the collection, they consigned it. So I asked him, what can you tell us about the person who brought them in, their age, or any story behind the find? And he responds, all the detail we have is in the Sports Collectors Daily article, which, you know, it was a guy who had found the collection when cleaning out his father's house, his attic, I think it was, in 1994, and then dug it back out again earlier this year. So not really much detail there. And then he adds, also, this is a consignment. We did not buy it outright. So that will shape how we view the rest of these answers. I asked, which cards did you grade, if any? Because there was a lot of criticism in there, including a little bit from me, about him not grading some of the big cards. And he was selling some of them raw on Twitter. Like one he sold for $475 raw. Why not grade? Why not authenticate it with PSA or SGC preferably? And so he said, we currently have 80 plus cards out of the 600 that we deemed were worthy of grading to increase the value of the cards. And he attached a photo of them, and I'll put that up here. So 80 out of 600. And I said, with which company did you grade them? He says, we have chosen PSA because they demand a premium in pricing compared to other grading companies with most cards. We are aware that PSA can take longer and cost more, but we are confident we will receive a higher price per card and in the end make it worthwhile. We have chosen not to grade more than around 80 cards because most of them sell for the same price raw. Many of the cards will not see an increase in value when they are graded authentic without a number grade, as you mentioned in your video. I would love to see some comps there. How does that look? I wasn't able to get that. My next question was, have you received the results back from the grading? And the answer is no, because it takes too long. My next question was, why did you decide to not grade or authenticate the big cards like the Babe Ruths, Shoeless Joe Jackson, Ty Cobb, Lou Gehrig? And he answers, the Lou Gehrig that I featured in the video is actually from a different collection, so that's my fault. I mixed that up. This collection had no Lou Gehrig cards. We actually are grading 60% of the Babe Ruths and nearly all of the other big Hall of Famers like Cobb. Why do we not authenticate all the big stars? The reason is we are always actively looking for the most efficient way to start bringing cash to our consigners early on. Instead of spending hundreds of dollars per Ruth or Shoeless Joe, if we can get close to graded comps without grading, our customers are satisfied with not having to wait 2 to 3 months for grading to finish before we are paying them any money. This actually makes a lot of sense to me. If you go in and you want cash now, and you don't want to take it to a cash now pawn shop, of course, you go to a card shop and you say, I'd love to sell these, I need some cash. And if they say to you, well, I can grade them and make a little bit more money, but it's going to take 3+ months, you might say, a little bit, is it really worth it? I'd like to have this cash now or sooner. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. I can definitely see that. My next question was, don't you think authentication would have brought more profit? And he said, the short answer to this is we've been grading thousands of cards for over the past decade and have learned that in most cases, you can get graded pricing raw depending on the card. Obviously, a 52 mantle we will grade every time, but it is a common misconception in our industry that you must grade every star in any condition to maximize value. Any decision we make is well thought out, and we at Auction Monthly are perfectionists and very competitive. We will not sell a card in any way that could purposely decrease the sale of the items. And then I wrote, a lot of people were criticizing you for not wearing gloves while handling these century-old cards. What is your response to them? He says, my response is that many dealers in different collectibles industries are actually against gloves. My take is if you're dealing with a very glossy finish card or an immaculate card, gloves may be necessary, but time and time again, our handling of cards without gloves has not impacted the card or the grades we receive, especially in this case where the cards were initially sold to little kids with oily, dirty hands in chocolate stores over 100 years ago, and being trimmed, the cards cannot be damaged anymore from simply not wearing gloves. And I did receive some comments from people who are in the book industry, like the vintage book industry, and they said that it's well known that the oils from your hands can't damage an old book, so maybe it's just a myth in cards. I really don't know. I'm far from an expert on this. So what do you think? You can go and follow Auction Monthly on Twitter. I find it to be a really interesting follow there. They post a lot of really cool cards, some interesting stuff. I get it. I understand why they didn't grade or authenticate everything right away. I think they make some good points here. I still question whether authenticating some of these strip cards doesn't bring value, but I understand not wanting to wait. I think if you were to send them off to SGC, you can get them back in 10 days, authenticated for $15, I think is what SGC's current price is, and increase the value somewhat significantly there from people who want to be sure that these strip cards are legitimate. But they did most of the Ruths. I don't know why you wouldn't do all of the Ruths, but sounds like they've thought it through. Sounds like they have good logic behind it, and they want to bring money faster to their customer. I can't really argue with that. What do you think? Let me know in comments. I'll be back tomorrow with my Clearing the Bases episode. No episode Monday, and then Tuesday I'll have an episode, I think. And then on Wednesday, I'm hoping to release a new interview with somebody I find really interesting, but is not exactly, well, I'm not going to ruin the surprise, but I hope you enjoy that. All right, that's it, guys. Hope you have a great weekend.